Thanks, Jamie, for talking to us a bit more about diversity. I definitely have a better understanding of what that term means now. I also wanted to ask you a few questions about equity. Most of all, what is equity and how is it different from equality?
It's a really good question. They're often misunderstood. What equity means is that people are treated, they're given the same resources and opportunities in order to reduce or remove disadvantage. That is, if somebody starts in a privileged position and they're putting the same effort and energy in as to somebody that starts in a not privileged position, we try to make their processes equitable so that they can achieve equal outcomes. So if we think of this as life as a race, or of meeting outcomes as a race, if somebody starts really far behind the starting line, if they don't have the right shoes, if they don't know where the race is going, that's a very different position from somebody who's starting on the starting line with the right shoes and knowing where they're going. Those things that I talked about, resources, are the privileges or lack of privileges that many different groups face in society, either from their cultural background, from their socioeconomic status, from their gender. So equity means that regardless of where you are at the start, if you're putting the same effort and energy in, we should be able to remove those disadvantages and make sure that if people are running as fast as one another, that they get to equal outcomes.
Okay, so equity can be seen as the method through which we can get to equality.
That's right. So even if we say everybody's equal, it's not actually the truth. People don't start out with equal opportunities. Some people start out much more disadvantaged than others. And by just saying that we're all equal, we actually minimize our ability to manage that. So if we recognize that we live in societies where there is inherent inequalities, not just in where we start, but how systems support us or not, and about who is enabled and who is not within society. If we have an understanding of that, then we can engage in equitable processes to help minimize that. And then the hope would be that we can achieve equal outcomes.
Another thing I wanted to ask from you is, why is equity important?
Equity is important because we can consider fairness and justice to be basic human rights. These are really important for us to feel well, to do well, and to experience meaningfulness. If you think about it, if you are in a job, you have the same qualifications as another person, and exactly the same job description, you would expect to be paid the same amount. But we live in an environment where that's not the case, that people don't have equality on the basis of things that they should, but rather they're unequal, maybe because of things like the color of your skin, your accent, your gender, where you come from. In societies where a basic human need is the need for fairness, the need to be respected for who you are and for the efforts and energy that you put in, that's where equity is really important.
Right. So how would we tell if we're being equitable? How do we evaluate equity in society?
First off, we need to understand our systems and who they are privileging, whose voices and experiences are come to the top there. So if we take, for instance, a hiring process, do we have bias in that, in the way that we understand somebody's name on their CV? Are we actually engaging in equity in that way? Do we recognize how the decisions that we make influence who is included and who's not? The other side of things is, are we listening to the diverse peoples that we work with or that are part of the society? Are we understanding their experiences of discrimination, of prejudice or bias? Do we acknowledge our own stereotypes? And do we recognize the way that they play into what we're doing? So, are we aware of where we're currently at? And are we listening to the experiences of people?
What would an equitable society or workplace look like?
It would look like a place where people feel like that for the efforts and energy that they expend, that they get out what they put in. It would look like that everybody has a fair go and that people aren't treated with bias, do not experience discrimination and prejudice simply from the background that they come from, or their culture, or whatever other group that they belong to.
All right. Thank you very much for defining equity. I personally really liked the points that you made about how equity is different from equality. That's often a point of confusion. I think now we'll go into talking about inclusion.